Hello, welcome to Tutors of Life podcast, where we research life so you don't have to. Episode 295. This is your host, Shaun Tutor.
And this is Sam. And this is a Tutor episode where we try to teach you something new.
So,
what are we learning?
We're going to learn today. Dan, thank you, Dan, for getting me this book called Same as Ever by Morgan Housel. He's the author of The Psychology of Money.
I saw that this morning, and I was like, we should have put that together before.
It's one of my favorite books.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fucking awesome.
So I have talked about it before. Like, we know I'm obsessed with collecting things. The background doesn't tell you any of that.
Yeah.
But one of my things that I like to do is, like, especially, like, collections of books. Like, if I really like an author, I like to get all of their books. Mm-hmm. So, like, Sarah J. Maas, I loved the Throne of Glass series. And then I got all of her other books because I was like, I loved her writing and love this series. I'm probably going to love her other series. And I did, too.
Right.
And so just, like, following that regard, like, I do it quite a bit with our personal development books. If I really like the author or I like a book, I want to get the whole collection and read them all. So I'm really shocked, actually, that we did not do that with that one.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a guide to what never changes. So the idea is there's things that are in the future that we cannot predict. But if we look backwards, should I read the synopsis? Is that a thing?
Sure. He's reading it in his head first.
All right. Stories about what people have always done and will always do. Timeless lessons about risk, opportunity, and living a good life. When people face an uncertain future, they try to forecast with more intelligence, data, and precision. Far more effective is to do the opposite. Look backward and be broad. Rather than attempting to figure out little ways the future might change, study the big things from the past that stayed the same. The more important events of the future will be surprises that no one sees coming, but the past is filled with so much timeless wisdom that can help you navigate that uncertainty. Same as ever shows you how.
Mm-hmm.
So, the two things we wanted to talk about today was utilizing expectations over predictions, and what was the other one?
Focus on the big picture, not the small things.
Yeah. Focus on the big things, not the small things. So the first part about expecting over predicting is if we look at history, we can see when things boom, they eventually bust. Mm-hmm. It always happens. After it booms, it busts. And so instead of trying to predict when that bust is going to happen or what is going to cause the bust, instead expect the bust is going to happen and prepare for it. Mm-hmm. So one example I'll give is like, if you like saving, like having a personal savings account, they say to save like 6 months, 3 to 6 months of income or expenses, 3 to 6 months of expenses, because we don't know what could possibly cause that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
we don't know what could possibly cause that, but we know and we could expect that it can happen.
Mm-hmm. And we should be prepared for it.
So instead of going like, oh, I think I'm going to lose my job because of X, Y, Z, I should start saving. No, you should expect that it is possible there will be a bust. Your job will do layoffs. Your job will close, something. You should expect that sometime in the future that could happen. And so you should be prepared for when that happens. Same thing with like the big thing for us is real estate.
Yeah.
We don't know when our roof's going to go out, but we expect the roof to go out. So we save every month. So when that roof goes out, we can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's in 5 years, maybe it's in 25 years. But we expect there's going to be big CapEx and repairs on the properties, so we save every month for it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't predict what's going to cause it, but we save for it.
Right. And we were kind of like discussing different expectations and predictions before. And I just thought of one. In 2019, we heard that the market was going to crash.
Yep.
And like we were kicking ourselves because we're like, well, we sold too early, because if we would have stayed in longer, we would have gotten a lot more out. But I think it was good that we did. So we expected it to crash at some point. So we sold to protect what we had earned already.
Yep.
Instead of predicting when it was going to happen, and we could have sold too late and lost a lot of money.
Exactly. Because I did that again on the second turn.
Mm-hmm.
So boom, we did it properly and right on the first go around in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then the crash of 2020 stuck a bunch of money back in. And then we got a bunch of gains, and we were discussing it. We're like, hey, we could take the wins, whatever, call it a day. And we're like, well, a lot of people are staying in because it's going to go more. And we lost so much.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we gained, we lost more than we gained.
Yeah.
Fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like,
and it's taken 3 years for it to finally get back to where it was.
right, exactly. And we're not in it anymore.
Yeah.
Because we sold at a loss to help write off some taxes and shit.
Yeah.
And so it's like, had we done what we knew we needed to do, we expected it.
Mm-hmm.
We knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
We just wanted to hang on for a little more. Got greedy.
Yeah.
And it cost us, hundreds of thousands of dollars it cost us.
Yeah.
And so, multiple.
Mm-hmm.
It was foolish.
Yeah.
I forgot my water.
That sucks.
But anyways, yeah. Yeah, it sucks, dude. It's like, that shit's not smart.
No. Yeah, I mean, because we were mad at ourselves for not staying in longer, but in the end, it was better to pull out early.
Oh, dude. Yeah, way better.
Mm-hmm.
Way better to expect than predict.
Mm-hmm. And there was like another thing. I mean, most of this I feel like has to do with like money, like expecting and predicting.
Yes, but other way to think about it is people's behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we can expect from past behavior, or dealing with people, we can expect how people might react to
Mm-hmm.
things. But we can't predict or, assume what people are going to do.
Yeah.
So we can be ready for, so if we're doing sales or having a tough conversation, we can be ready from learning from the past.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't predict and assume that that's how they're going to act.
Right.
All we can do is be prepared for it
Mm-hmm.
in case it does happen.
Right. Another example I was just going to use is one of our bigger projects that we did. We finished last summer, and we predicted the market to stay where it was.
Uh-huh.
So for people to be just buying everything up, having tons of offers on every property we had, instead of expecting it to slow down at some point and trying to finish that project earlier.
Right.
So, and we didn't take our time on the project, but we could have very easily finished the project a month or two sooner,
Mm-hmm.
and we would have gotten way more out of what we...
Yeah.
Because we only got one offer or two offers on that.
3 offers.
3 offers.
3 offers, yeah.
But it took a little bit of time to get those.
Mm-hmm.
And if we would have expected the market to slow down, we would have finished it 2 months earlier, and we would have been in a lot better position.
Right.
So that's like another thing that we predicted and we should have expected.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of both. We've done both many times.
100%. So, yeah, I mean, the big thing is, be over-prepared.
Mm-hmm.
If you... you can expect that things are going to change. That's going to happen. So be prepared for the change. You don't know what the change is going to be, but be prepared for. Have tools in your tool belt to be prepared. Have your savings account. Have more in savings than you think you should have in savings.
Yeah.
Um,
Like where it makes you uncomfortable.
where it makes you uncomfortable. Like this is wasting money. Like I should be investing this in assets. Like no, have more than you think you should, because then you're 100% set up.
Yeah.
And so, and what people don't like think about too is, if we expect there to be a turn, eventually there will be a turn. And like, especially in the financial world. So, there's a report, I can't remember the report exactly, but back in 2010, a financial guy did a report, and it was how to get out of debt in the US. So the US was in crazy amounts of debt. This guy ran it by Obama, ran it by the president and all the officials, whatever, and was like, hey, this report right here shows you where to tighten up spending, shows you what to do. It gives you a roadmap of exactly what to do to get this country out of debt before it's too late. Well, Obama in 2010, so he was only in for a year, ignored the report, told the guy to kick rocks. They've rediscussed it, and I think they said when Trump was in office, it was already too late. Like, it wouldn't have mattered if he started doing it. Like, it was already too late. And now it's so far past that the report and those things, it doesn't even matter anymore. And so the thing is, like, there's going to be a crash. Like, expect it. There's going to be a crash. The monetary, the currency we currently have will not be worth anything. Like, this is going to happen. And so, what can you do? We can't predict when it's going to happen. It might not happen for 50 years.
Right.
But we can expect it's going to happen. And why can we expect it's going to happen? Because if you look what the U.S. has done with printing money without backing it to a currency, and you look at every country that has done that in the past, they have all failed. They have all crumbled. Their currencies have all crumbled. So if we look at that now, and you say, okay, every country, not like some of them, every country that's done what the U.S. has done fails. They fail. So we have to expect that it's going to fail because we did something coming off the gold standard we were not supposed to do. That's what Hitler tried doing back in the day, is to go to a gold standard. He wanted to get the gold in a pretty wrong way.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it's one of the things he wanted to do. And there was another country more recently that was very... I have to look back in. That was another very controversial country that wanted to go to the gold standard, and a war started there because they didn't want them to go to the gold standard. I'll have to look it up and see if I can find it for the next podcast. But whatever. Anyways, when people try to go to the gold standard, there is war. I think John F. Kennedy Jr. wanted to stay on the gold standard or something as well, because then the gold standard came off right after he, like 4 years after he was assassinated, it came off. I think Nixon in 1971. Anyways, whenever they come off the gold standard, the country ends up failing. And so, because it's just a fiat currency, it's not tethered to anything. So anyways, knowing that and expecting that eventually this currency will fail. Okay, so what can you do about that? Well, you can buy assets. Okay, well, along with assets, you need savings. Okay, well, if you don't want to be crazy heavy in cash savings, well, get some different assets. Gold, different currencies, whatever it is, so that you're diversified a little, So anyways, there's a lot of things like that to curb yourself and be prepared for when things are going to happen. because you're going to kick yourself if these things happen and we enter a depression and you weren't prepared at all because you thought that, oh, it won't happen to us. It's not going to happen to us. Well, it happens every certain amount of years. Something like that happens. Expect it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got over there?
Nothing real good.
Okay.
No, Wikipedia's talking about how bad the gold standard is.
That the gold standard's bad.
Mm-hmm. Because they say it's like such a volatile market. Because the reason we got off was because of the war and the Great Depression. Because the wars, we had to put so much gold into the wars to fund them. So then we didn't have any gold, so money was worth nothing. So that's why they started to abandon it, was because we used so much of the gold we had.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, but
wouldn't that just mean that? So then we had less gold. Okay, so then there was less gold because they used the gold. Well, so what they need to do was then take currency back. If they're spending gold, they need to pull currency back.
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to pull money out of the circulation.
Oh, yeah.
But
you got to think that was before people had cards and stuff.
Right.
So that's why it went into a depression. Because nobody had money.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Okay.
So that's why they took it off of the gold standard around that time. And then some countries went back to it after World War II and some didn't. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still think it would have been better because instead of spending the gold, or like if they had to spend the gold, they should have spent the gold with the money and taken that money out of circulation if they're spending the gold.
Yeah.
So you retain the same breakdown of currency.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense than just going, this is worth $1. Okay, well, why? Because we said so. What? What's it tied to? Nothing. So this piece of paper is worth $1. Yep.
I mean, you got to think like back before we had currency, like they kind of randomly determined what things were worth.
Yeah, for sure. You do determine what things are worth, but it's always based on some level of something.
So how do you determine that a sheep is worth less than a cow?
I don't know. But is it worth less than a cow?
I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, they had to put some type of arbitrary values to things.
Right.
Because the sheep farmer may think that his sheep is worth more than the cow farmer. Anyways, that's not what this podcast is about.
No, but here's what I'll say about that is it's still tied to something. There's a sheep there, something of value.
Yeah, but that's what
Is this a value to you? Is this a sheep?
You can determine if it's worth something.
You could determine if this was backed by a sheep. I agree, then it's worth one sheep. But this is not.
But a sheep isn't.
But this piece of paper, as this piece of paper stands right now, with nothing behind it, besides us saying that, like nothing behind it, just going, this is a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, if you said this piece of paper is worth one sheep, then it'd be like, okay, cool, that's a pretty valuable thing.
But how do you determine what the value of a sheep is?
That would all be It would be determined by like people figuring out what it's worth. It's the same thing. Like, what's gold worth? What people will pay for it? So what, like, someone will give wheat for that sheep or something. Like, that's what it's worth to someone.
But how much wheat is worth a sheep?
It's whatever someone's willing to pay for it.
So I think it's the same thing. I think a dollar bill being worth $1 is the same as a sheep being worth a sheep.
Okay. But the country doesn't back it. There's nothing in the country backing that currency. It's all made up.
So is the value of a sheep.
Okay. So you're telling me the gold standard's pointless?
I'm saying at any point in time, you can determine randomly what something is worth.
By what someone will pay for it.
Sure.
That's how you figure out what something's worth, is what people will pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay. But in order to put a currency value on it, well, you can do that. You can put a currency value on it,
Mm-hmm.
but that currency should be backed by something to make it worth something. The dollar was made into the dollar because they based it upon gold.
Mm-hmm.
Someone assigned that, like, gold's value is roughly $10,000 a pound, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, which is, I think it's way more than that, but whatever. So it's worth, let's just say $10,000 a pound is worth for gold, and then this many dollars equals a pound.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever. So yeah, you got $10,000 for a pound. Okay? So the country has a currency that is backed by its savings account, by its asset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? By its asset. It is backed by an asset. And that is how it's exchanged. Because it's always backed by an asset. Right now, currency is not backed by an asset. It's backed by an ideology.
I don't know. I'm still going to think everything's just made up.
Everything is made up. Everything's made up.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference of having an asset that backs something,
but also,
and having zero asset.
Okay, whatever.
Do you agree that there's a difference between having an asset and not having an asset?
I don't know. Let's move on.
It's just, is there a difference between owning a house and not owning a house?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
But the value of the house is made up.
But you still have a house.
Okay, fine. Yeah. The value of that piece of paper is made up, but I still have the piece of paper.
Exactly.
It's all made up.
It's made up by the amount. It is not.
But like, someone
house.
randomly decided how much this house was worth.
Yes, but there's still a house here.
I think we're fighting for the same thing. Anyways.
I don't think so.
I think so.
Because the concept is this. Is there a house or is there not a house?
That's not at all what I'm saying.
But that's the difference between having a gold standard and not having a gold standard.
No, because the dollar bill is still a dollar bill. We still randomly decide how much the dollar bill is worth. No matter what, if it's based off of how much gold we have or how much we don't have. Or it's not connected to.
We make that up for now,
Yes.
but that will end.
Yep. Well, obviously, yes.
In countries that have the gold standard, that can't end. It doesn't end.
But the value of gold is made up.
But it's still gold. People still want it.
What if nobody wants it? Then the asset is worthless.
Then that asset's worthless. Absolutely. But do you think it's more likely for someone to not care about a piece of paper than to not care about gold?
Well, obviously the gold would be better.
That's all I'm saying. That's my point. Gold's better than not having gold.
My whole point is I don't think it matters about currency if there's gold to back it up or if there's not.
Inflation.
Anyways.
If you see what the dollar gets you today compared to what the dollar got you in 1971, inflation shows you the difference between what a dollar bill is now compared to what a dollar was based on gold. Inflation shows you.
Okay. Continue.
All right. So anyways, all it is we can expect that it's going to fail because we went off the gold standard.
Okay.
And so because it's going to fail, you should be prepared. You can't predict when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You can, but you're not going to, whatever. But knowing that eventually it's going to happen, then you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. What else we got?
Do you have anything else for the...
Expect or predict?
Yeah.
No. Not really.
All right.
I think that's all we needed to cover on that.
I think so.
Okay.
So, the next part is big, like doing the big things and not worrying about the small things. Focus on the big, not the small.
Yeah. Like how much the dollar bill is worth. I'm just kidding.
Tell me more. I want to know more. What do you mean?
No. One thing that Sean and I discussed about this was when we did our walkthrough of one of our flips recently. She's loud.
Mm-hmm.
We walked through with our previous mentor, Audrey, who was very gracious to help us out and try to figure out what would be the best thing to do with this beast of a project. And one of the things she told us was for all flips to focus on the big things before the little things. And
she said she focus on the big things that cost the least amount of money, but make the biggest impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the cupboards in both parts of the house were different colors.
Mm-hmm.
And one side of it was in very good shape, and the other ones they needed to be finished, and they weren't the layout we needed, and they had really old, gross countertops. So instead of putting a whole new kitchen into the other half of the house, because they already had a full kitchen, we were like, okay, well, take out these cabinets, save them for a different project, and put in a smaller kitchenette. Because then, like, if you wanted like a second hangout living room, then you have like a wet bar, basically. Mm-hmm. So that was one thing a big thing that we focused on that wasn't worth a whole lot of money compared to if we put in a whole nother kitchen.
Right. Yep.
And then when we were getting to the end of the project, we just kept focusing on like so many of these small little things that I told Shauna, I was just like, I don't think this is going to matter if we fix this for the house to sell. So it was like some of the light switches were upside down. And I was like, this is just such a little thing, and we're wasting so much time on just fixing them all to the correct direction. Mm-hmm. One, they should have been just installed the correct direction. Mm-hmm. But two, like, that's not something that someone would have been like, this light switch is upside down, I'm not going to buy it.
Right.
Or even like, these light switches are different color, I'm not going to buy it.
Right.
But if we would have put in a full kitchen or left the full kitchen upstairs with the gross green countertops, that would have probably made someone be like, I don't really want to buy this because of this kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. And like picking right after that, same things like painting a house.
Yeah.
Like if you paint the house, that's going to transform the look of the house immediately. Mm-hmm. If you put new floors in the house, transform the house immediately. Mm-hmm. If you're worrying about what backsplash you're doing, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, worry about the big shit, and then you can focus on the smaller stuff. Mm-hmm. But make sure all the big stuff's done, and then go down. Mm-hmm. And so...
Because, like, I mean, the other one we talked about, we predicted that it would be fine if we finished it 2 months later. We probably could have cut out a lot of the small things to get that done 2 months earlier.
Right.
And it would have sold just fine without those small things.
100%. Yep. And so, yeah, it goes into pretty much anything you can think of like worrying about the big things and the small things. Okay, so if you look and you've got $1,000 car payment and you've got Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, mm-hmm. and you're like, man, 3 streaming services, I don't need that. I could wipe one of them out, and that'll help me save $20 a month. Okay, sweet, but maybe let's get rid of the $1,000 car payment a month and get something for $250 a month. Mm-hmm. That's going to save you $750. Then once you're doing that, then you could worry about the $20 a month.
Right. And that's something we've been guilty of, is like trying to tick off some of those lower priced items mm-hmm. instead of our bigger priced items. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like for a while, like we had like my car loan, we had the side-by-side loan, and it was just so dumb because we had the money to pay them off. Mm-hmm. And well, my student loans, we had that too. And so in total, that was like $1,000 a month in loans we were paying. And we could have we had the money to just pay them off. So we could have just paid them off to lower our monthly expenses. And just by lowering those monthly expenses, we can put that money back into the savings that we
took from.
And then it was less payments we had to worry about too.
Right.
And now if something does happen in the economy or like with our jobs, like we don't have to worry about if we need that extra $1,000 a month to pay those loans.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Big thing. Worry about the big, not the small. And like, I guess something like they gave a bunch of examples of that, but a couple of them were like, you can't predict the small things necessarily. You can't predict some things that'll happen. So like the one example for when the day they signed the Declaration of Independence, the fight that happened the night before or whatever, Washington's army would have been wiped out had the wind been coming from the east, not the west. That the U.S. wouldn't be a thing if that never happened. And so it's like, okay, something like that is so little, the direction of the wind on a certain day, but that can change. That little thing can give the big impact that could change everything. But we couldn't predict the wind. But, what could we do? They had a revolution. They had an army. They, had plans to meet and do this treaty and all this stuff. So, like, they had these things in place that could happen, and it happened. Now, they could have had all those things in place and it not happened by a small detail, but at least they were prepared for it.
Yeah.
And at least they were, like, doing the big things to make it happen. And had they been concerned and like, oh, well, the wind could come from the west, let's not do this. And then the wind didn't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so anyways, the big thing is do the big things you can control and worry about don't worry about the little things, because a lot of the time they're out of your control.
Yeah.
Or when it comes to time, then you can address it then.
But also, like, changing your mindset on some of those annoying little things, because something so small that may have hindered you a little bit in one way could then have, because that thing happened, could have changed your trajectory to go in a way better path than if that little inconvenience wouldn't have happened. Because, like, I mean, we can just use us as an example. We both had to take a stupid general class in college.
Yep.
And if we wouldn't have had to take those generals, Shaun and I would have never met.
Right.
So, that class was a huge inconvenience, and it was very not
pointless.
Yeah, very pointless. But that small little thing had changed mine and Shaun's life forever.
Right.
So, changing your perspective on those things too, I think, helps a lot.
For sure. Shit happens for a reason. That's all it is. So, it's like going on a plane, and just worrying that the plane's gonna crash. Like, okay, well, that could happen, but chances are unlikely. But if it did happen, well, that's just a stroke of luck. That's a stroke. That's how the cookie crumbles, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Things happen for a reason.
But yeah, focus on the big stuff. Look at the past. What's happened in the past? This is so true with today's world. Look in the past. What things have happened in the past that you can learn from that can then help you in the future. It's like reading all the good books from the past.
Yeah.
By all these guys, Napoleon Hill, Dale Carnegie, like reading these books and learning from them so then you can implement the main big like ideas into your life. Sure, you can't control what direction the wind comes from, or if someone in oncoming traffic swerves into your lane or something. You can't. Those things are out of your control, but you can do everything that you know to be right now to like progress yourself forward.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
I love it.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in, gang. Hope you enjoyed it.
See you Friday.
See you Friday.